Good evening, everyone. This CPOC Commissioners meeting is hereby called to order. The time is now 6:08 p.m. My name is Malika Rahman, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the vice chair of this commission. Tonight, I will be facilitating this meeting. This is a public meeting of the Citizens Police Oversight Commissioners that was properly advertised pursuant to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. We will now have our commissioners' roll call. Commissioner Melanie DeBose.
What? I am present.
Good evening, Commissioner DeBose, and yes, you were called first. Commissioner Michelle Enix Kinney. Commissioner Michelle Enix Kinney.
Commissioner Michelle Enos Kinney is present. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Enix Kinney. Commissioner Gilberto Gonzalez.
Commissioner Gonzalez present. Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Hakeem P.A.
Commissioner PA present. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioner PA. Thank you for joining us. Commissioner John Solomon. Has anybody heard from Commissioner Solomon this evening? There he is. Commissioner Solomon? All right, we'll give him a second to get his sound and everything together. Commissioner Erica Stewart.
Commissioner Stewart present. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Commissioner Stewart, and thank you for pressing your way on tonight. I know that this has been a very challenging week for you, so it is great to have you with us on this evening. Commissioner Latanya Whitehead.
Good evening. Commissioner Whitehead is present. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good evening. And I'm going to circle back. Commissioner John Solomon.
Commissioner Solomon present.
All right. Good evening, Commissioner Solomon. And again, I am Vice Chair Malika Rahman, and our chair, Hassan Bennett, will be joining us a little late on this evening. We were able to hear from him prior to tonight's meeting. We have our minutes, yes? All right. Did everyone have an opportunity to read and review tonight's meeting agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Has anyone not had an opportunity to read and review tonight's meeting agenda? All right. Do I hear a motion to accept tonight's meeting agenda for June 25th, 2026?
This is Commissioner Michelle Enix Kinney. I motion to move tonight's meeting agenda for June 25th, 2026.
Thank you so much. That is Commissioner Michelle Enix Kinney with a motion on the floor to accept tonight's meeting agenda. Do I hear a second?
Commissioner PA seconds the motion I hear.
Thank you, Commissioner PA, with a second to that motion. All in favor of approving and accepting tonight's meeting agenda, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Tonight's meeting agenda has been accepted and approved. And now, has everyone had an opportunity to review our May 2026 meeting minutes?
May?
It's June. We can't approve June's minutes yet. It is May's minutes, am I correct? Okay. All right. Commissioner PA, now I know I'm a little silly, but I ain't crazy then. Do we have an opportunity for everyone to read and review the May 2026 meeting minutes?
I read the minutes from May of 2026. A motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner PA. Do I hear a second for the motion to approve the May 2026 meeting minutes?
This is Commissioner Michelle Enix Kenny, and I approve the meeting minutes from May of 2026.
Thank you, Commissioner Enix Kenny, for approving those minutes. Would any other commissioners like to vote and approve the meeting minutes as well? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
commissioners who oppose, please say nay. The ayes have it at the second of Commissioner Michelle Enix Kenny that the May 2026 meeting minutes have been approved and accepted. And I will now turn it over to our most capable Executive Director, Tanya McCleary, to see if you all give her the same trouble that you have given me on tonight to handle the agency business. Thank you, Executive Director McCleary.
Great. Good evening. Thank you, Vice Chair Rockman, and good evening to all the other commissioners and the community. All righty.
Are you guys seeing it on here?
We are, but it's not in slide mode or presentation mode.
Carrie. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
There
Yep.
we go.
All right. All right. Next slide, please. So the Citizens Police Oversight Commission's mission is to oversee and investigate the conduct, policies, and practices of the Philadelphia Police Department. Currently, CPOC receives complaints of police misconduct, receives commendations to celebrate officers who go above and beyond the call of duty, audit and monitor internal affairs investigations and police disciplinary processes, sit and vote on PBI panels at police disciplinary hearings, conduct oversight of police shootings, analyze police data, develops policy recommendations and reports, and engages in outreach and training. So why is civilian oversight necessary? And we talk about this at every meeting. It protects human rights. It promotes constitutional policing. It increases public confidence and trust in the police. It builds bridges between law enforcement and the public. It supports effective policing and ensures greater accountability and enhances risk management. And so how it helps to build public confidence and trust in the police, or actually let me go to talk about promotes human rights, is that I think a lot of you know that this is also Pride Month. And so it was no secret to anybody, if you're a Philadelphian, and all throughout the news, there were concerns about how the police department handled some things that happened in the neighborhood and other places. And so what we talk about when it talks about protects human rights is that, you know, there were a lot of people that questioned, you know, whether there was some questions around the dignity. You know, we heard testimony, there was testimony very shortly after that about many people in that community feeling like they don't have the same rights as others when it comes to the ability to freely assemble and things of that nature. And what police oversight does is help to amplify those concerns and those voices so that in the event that a particular community, a particular incident is really impacting people's rights just to live and be free and be the human beings that they are, we bring those out and make recommendations to the police department for change. And so that's, you will hear more from us. We are monitoring the events that happened during Pride, the weekend on the Parkway as well in the neighborhood, and really trying to hear from that community about their concerns, about how they feel, about the reasons why they feel those ways. And we will be hopefully working with the police department to address those concerns. And so that's how we protect human rights. Everyone has the right to be free and to feel free. And so when our group is feeling impinged upon by the police department, that is one of the things that CPOC is here to do, is to address that and to figure out ways that we can help that community. Next slide. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over. Our Daniel Guy, who is our administrative director, is not here today, but we are going to have this report from the capable hands of the Data Analytics and Accountability Insights team. So I'm going to turn it over to Allison and Miguel to talk about the May complaints.
Thanks, Tanya. So CPOC issues a monthly complaint report summarizing the complaints received by CPOC and referred to the Internal Affairs Division of the Philadelphia Police Department. You can find the full report on CPOC's website with the link on the slide below. Here are some complaint report summaries. These summaries are allegations made by complainants which have not been investigated, so they do not represent any findings or effect of conclusions. One complainant reported that the complainant's children were pulled over in front of her house. The complainant requested that her grandchild be removed from the car, but the officers denied the request. Officers were verbally abusive, becoming belligerent and racist to her and her children. Officers were unclear about the reason for the stop and refused to call a supervisor when the complainant requested it. In this next complaint, the complainant's brother was struck and killed by a car. Police made no attempt to investigate the incident. The family only learned of the brother's passing due to the landlord reaching out. The driver of the vehicle waited 12 hours to turn themselves in, and the complainant believes that this is so the driver could, quote unquote, sober up. The complainant believes that PPD delayed the investigation and failed to exercise due diligence in collecting evidence. The complainant also believes that the driver was not charged properly due to this poor investigation. In this complaint, the complainant reported that there was an altercation involving a police officer and some younger teens who live on her block. The complainant stated that while the teenagers were wrong for their behavior, the treatment they received at the hands of the police was abhorrent. The complainant also mentioned that their daughter, who is a person of color, was accused of being part of the problem, quote unquote, by the officer. In this complaint, the complainant alleged they were pulled over by an officer who she believes knows her. The officer told her she ran a red light, but she believed she did not. The officer insinuated that if she were nicer to him, he wouldn't have checked her license and registration. The complainant felt that the officer was implying that she should have flirted with the officer to get out of the traffic stop. This complainant reported that while walking home carrying food and household supplies, a marked police vehicle pulled up to the complainant. The officer asked the complainant whether they, quote unquote, have a license for that, even though their firearm was concealed. The complainant produced their license to carry firearms and gave it to the officer. This is the second time this specific officer has targeted the complainant without cause. The officer requested to conduct a physical search, which the complainant declined, as is their legal right.
All right, thank you, Allison. I am Miguel Garces. I'm the Director of Data Analytics and Accountability Insights here at CPOC, and we want to go through some of the demographic data that we collect. In May, CPOC referred 40 complaints to PPD's Internal Affairs Division, and these charts show race and ethnicity demographic data from May, as reported by complainants. On the left side, you can see that the race distribution pie chart shows that we had 12 Black/African-American complainants, 12 white, and 11 who chose to not specify their race. On the right, we have ethnicity. We had 21 that were labeled as not Hispanic or Latinx, 14 that were not specified, and 5 that identified as Hispanic or Latinx. Next slide, thank you. Next up, we have the year-to-date numbers. So we're looking at all of 2026, January through May. On the left, you can see the racial distribution. We had almost a majority, or about half, were Black or African American at 69 of the complaints that we received out of 149 for year to date. 36 were white, 31 were not specified, and 13 were other. And then for ethnicity distribution, we had, oh, did I get those? No, yeah, 15 were Hispanic Latino, 89 not Hispanic or Latinx, and 45 not specified. Next up, we have gender distribution. On the left, we have the May 2026 numbers, and on the right, we have the January to May year-to-date numbers. So we have, for May, we have 17 who identified as female, 14 identified as male, and 10 who either not specified or preferred not to answer. And then on the right, we have the year-to-date number, which includes almost a majority female, 73, 55 male, and 21 not specified. And then we had a minority, but a significant minority who identified as either non-binary or third gender or trans female. Next up, we have our allegations. The most common allegation reported by complainants are related to departmental violations, and we're going to break those down in the next slide. A single complaint can have multiple allegations, so when you add up the numbers here, that will add up to more than the total number of complaints. Number 2 is lack of service, and then number 3 is verbal abuse. Number 4 is unprofessional conduct, and number 5 is physical abuse. That's the year-to-date numbers for allegations. And then next up, we have the departmental violation subcategories. Most common, this breaks down the departmental violations. The most common are improper stop/detention, PPD directive violation, which can include a number of different kinds of directives. And then third is improper search and seizure, and fourth is abuse of authority. Next up, we have complaints by zip code. You can see, similar pattern to what we have seen for most of 2026. Complaints are really targeted in the North Philly, Lower Northeast, West Philly area, and South Philly, west of Broad. And, as we usually see as well, there are very few complaints, sometimes no complaints coming from the Northwest, far Northeast, and South Philly, east of Broad. Next up, we have the data by police district. You could see that because the Center City Police District is so large and covers a large population, we do see a large number of complaints in that area. And then we see a similar pattern to what we showed previously by zip code. And lastly, we have the year-to-date number. So this is showing what our complaints looked like in 2023, 2024, 2025, and so far this year. So the light line at the bottom is our data from 2023. And you can kind of see that each year since then, we've seen an increase in the number of complaints that we receive and refer to internal affairs on any given month. The last 2 months, we actually have hit monthly records regarding the number of complaints we've referred. So in May, like I mentioned, we referred 40 complaints, which is the most we have ever received as an organization. And the month before, April, we also broke a record of the most complaints. You can see that we usually do see an increase in April and May, and then a lull in the summer. So we'll see in 2026 whether that pattern continues or not. And I will pass it to Janine. Thank you.
No, Miguel, if we can, Carrie, can you go back, please? We always give the commissioners a chance for comment and questions.
Yes, thank you.
So if we can go back to the last slide for complaints and turn it over to the vice chair to handle any questions or comments from commissioners.
First of all, thank you, Miguel and Allison both. And we will open up the floor. Do any commissioners have any questions on the reports as they have been reviewed for us this evening?
No questions, but great job, Miguel and Allison. Thank you so much for this detailed information for the complaints. You guys, you both did a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Hi, I have Commissioner DeBose on the phone with a question.
This question is for Miguel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So you mentioned that the data for the most complaints of the month, and then you mentioned the word forever. Now, is that since the onset of data collection? And if that's the case, when did that start? I know when we start hearing about it, but what constitutes forever?
Yes, great. Thank you for that question. So the data that I'm showing here goes back to the beginning of 2023, which is the data that we have available in our software system Civil. We do have prior data from CPOC's origination from 2021 and 2022. And we also have some Police Advisory Commission data that we want to load into Civil. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to present a longer time horizon. But these numbers certainly are much higher than the number of complaints that we received and referred back during the Police Advisory Commission days. So I couldn't tell you with certainty that this is the highest, but it certainly is the highest since 2023, and most likely is higher than any month prior, going back to 2018 when our data collection started.
I have one question. Just for clarity, when CPOC gets to complain, what is the process? You look at when do you give your recommendations? How long is that period?
Yeah, so when we receive a complaint either online or on the phone, we'll put it into our system. If it's online, we usually will reach out to the complainant if they don't ask to be anonymous, and actually interview them, kind of clarify the facts of the case. We then will package that into a referral that will go to the Internal Affairs Unit. Our goal is always to send those over within 5 days, and we usually do meet that requirement. And once it goes to Internal Affairs, they have their own intake process, and then they let us know if that case was accepted or not, and then we'll let the complainant know whether the case was accepted, what their number is, and if necessary, who their investigator is, who may be reaching out to them for an additional interview.
Great. Thank you so much, Miguel.
Thank you again, Miguel. And just before we pass it on again, just wrapping up, do any other commissioners have any questions for Miguel or Allison at this point in the presentation? All righty, Miguel, again, thank you very much. Thank you, Allison. And we will now turn it back over to our executive director to move forward.
Thank you. So we are now going to the auditing policy and research division, and the director, Janine Zajac, is here to talk to us about that division. And so I'm going to turn it over to Janine.
Great, thank you. Carrie, you can push, yeah, perfect, thank you. Hi, everyone, good evening. I'm here as always to talk about the work of my division, the Auditing Policy and Research Division, with a focus this evening on the audits that we do of closed internal affairs investigations. So as always, I'll walk through sort of a little bit of our process and how we do our work. So we receive case file materials from Internal Affairs once they have completed their investigation and reached their findings, but before the investigation has completely been signed off on and finalized. So once we receive those case file materials, our team has 11 business days to complete our review and then notify the police department if we will be providing feedback or recommendations about the individual investigations. So if we do have feedback, we send specific recommendations to the investigator. For example, we might recommend that they interview all the officers who were present during the incident, or provide an explanation in the report of investigation for why these officers were not interviewed. And this just helps close any gaps or answer any questions that we have about the choices that were made in the investigation. So this process allows the civilian oversight staff to take a look at these investigations while they're open and then provide this feedback about things that we think maybe could be improved or changed in the investigation. And we use the same series of questions and criteria to assess each case that we review so that our reviews are consistent over time. Go to the next slide, Carrie. So I always like to talk a little bit about why this data that I present matters. It gets a little bit in the weeds and gets into some details of the reviews that we do, but this data adds up over time and allows us to make recommendations, larger recommendations to the department about how to improve their processes and increase consistency and fairness in their investigations. And of course, the data that I present here is showing the direct impact that we're able to have on outcomes of cases where that's appropriate. The reports that I share here are intended to show this impact that we have on sort of the macro level and also through examples that I'll provide at the end of my presentation. And the data and the trends and the themes that we identify through this work can help generate project work for our team or for other teams in the office or advocacy to the police department or to other city stakeholders as well. Next slide, please. So for the month of May, we received 44 cases from Internal Affairs. 36 of those cases were full investigations and 8 of them were divisional cases. Divisional cases are shorter reviews of complaints that are done by an officer's commanding officer that is for low-level misconduct and is kind of a fast resolution for more straightforward, more low-level cases. So of the 44 that we received, we reviewed a total of 28 cases, and all 28 of those were the full investigations that were completed at Internal Affairs. Focusing on those full investigations as opposed to the divisional cases allows us to have more impact and, of course, review the more serious types of cases or serious allegations that come through these complaints to Internal Affairs. So this graphic is showing the percentage of cases that we audit per month going back to 2024. So you can see there is some variation in the percentage of cases that we're able to take a look at in any given month. We set a goal to audit about 80% of the cases we receive. Our ability to meet that goal kind of changes based on staff capacity and the volume of cases that we receive. Some months are really heavy and some months are lighter, so it can really change what we're able to accomplish in any given month. But in the month of May, like I said, we were able to audit what adds up to 64% of the cases that we received. And this graphic is including those divisional cases as well. Next slide. So this slide contains a couple of the quality metrics that we look at for these investigations. We're always just collecting information on the timeliness of the investigation. In the month of May, for the audits that we did, about 2/3 of the cases that we reviewed were completed within the 90 business day guideline. And that is on par with the statistics from the previous 2 months as well. And the next one that we have here, our audits found that the findings of the cases aligned with the evidence presented in 93% of the cases. So that is a really great statistic to see. That means that in these investigations, we're looking at the investigators are presenting their evidence and making their arguments for what the findings should be, and it's all making sense. And we want that to be the case. We want to be able to understand why these findings are what they are, and to be at nearly 100% for that is really great. Last month, for example, this was at 55% as opposed to 93%. So this is a really nice improvement to see. We're always looking at if the investigations are actually addressing all of the allegations that were made by the complainant, as well as any other violations that are present or uncovered during the course of the investigation. So in the month of May, only 21% of the cases we reviewed had missing allegations or violations that we identified, with a total of just 7 individual missing allegations or violations. So Again, to compare to previous months, in March, 50% of the cases that we reviewed had something missing, and in April was 14%. So it seems like this is a trend downward. They are being more thorough in the allegations and violations that they're catching. So that's also really great to see. The Internal Affairs Division does have very clear policies about how they are supposed to address every allegation made by the complainant, as well as any additional violations that they find. So we're just really holding them to those policies and making sure they're being as thorough as their policies are telling them to be. And this graphic is showing what types of recommendations we actually did make in the month of May for our audits when we were making recommendations. This month, our recommendations leaned heavily towards missing violations and allegations. And as I said, their policy is very clear about including all of the allegations and violations present in a case. So that's a very straightforward type of recommendation for us to make, and so shows up relatively frequently. Next slide, please. And this graphic is showing the percentage of cases with recommendations per month, going back again to 2024 when we started making these recommendations. For the month of May, we sent feedback memos for 43% of the cases we reviewed. As you can see, that's an all-time low. So that's good to see. We're sending recommendations for fewer cases over time. It's going down. You can see back at the beginning of the process, we were sending it in up to 85% of the cases, and now we've kind of cut that in half. So that is great to see. They have made some changes to how they write their reports and how they address certain things. They're catching more allegations of violations. So this graphic is, I think, showing some of the impacts that we're having in the thoroughness and completeness of these investigations. Next slide, please. And this one's just showing the number of recommendations we made per case when we had feedback. If we had feedback for a case, we typically had just one recommendation. I can definitely say that wasn't always the case. There were certainly cases in the past where we would review them and find 3 or 4 issues that needed to be addressed. So to see just one recommendation often in these cases is also a very heartening statistic for me. And the next couple of slides, I included an example of a case that we reviewed in the month of May and a recommendation that we made, just to give some context or an example of what we see sometimes and what we're really trying to impact with these. So it's a fake name in here, and I try to sort of anonymize it as much as possible. So in this, in a case that we reviewed in the month of May, this was kind of like a school let out situation. There were 2 brothers involved. An officer approached brother number 1 and spoke to him, and they were trying to get these kids to disperse. The officer grabbed this first brother, or maybe just approached him. His body worn camera wasn't activated, so we really don't know how the encounter started. This individual's brother saw this happening, saw the officer approaching his brother, and reacted and grabbed the officer and grabbed him near his vest. At that point, 3 officers then pressed both brothers up against a nearby wall, and other backup officers quickly approached with their cameras activated and were coming to assist. So while these 2 brothers were being held up against this wall and being subdued, one of the officers punched one of the brothers in the face or head with a closed fist. So the brothers were being restrained by the 3 officers and were standing still with their shoulders pressed against the wall when this punch occurred. So Directive 10.2 from the police department states that barring exigent circumstances, officers are prohibited from striking a subject to the head or face using a closed fist. The investigation ultimately exonerated this punch, meaning they agreed that it occurred but felt that it was within policy. And their analysis cited this use of force policy, but did not address this issue of it being a prohibited head or face strike. Next slide, please. So in the review of this case, our team member reviewed all the body-worn camera footage that was available, and it's very clear. You can see in the footage an officer pulling his hand back with a fist, cocking his arm back, and he has a closed fist, and then strikes this young man. The officer said in his interview that his hand was partially closed upon contact with brother number 2's face. Exigent circumstances, if that is a term anyone is not familiar with, that means that there are it's an emergency situation in which officers can take action outside of normal procedures. This, of course, can be subjective of what is exigent. But based on the body worn cameras we were able to review, we did not believe that this exonerated finding for the facial punch was supported. I want to note the investigator did a really thorough investigation and analysis, but ultimately we just disagreed with this finding and the outcome because this punch to a face is expressly prohibited unless there are exigent circumstances. And given the totality of the situation, we didn't feel like there was a threat that was sort of rising to the level of necessitating this punch. So we recommended that this officer be sustained for punching this young man in the face, but the final outcome is pending. We haven't gotten a response. So what happens at this point is that our memo goes back to the police department. The investigator then can respond in writing to our recommendations, and ultimately our recommendation memo and the investigator's response to us goes up the chain to the deputy commissioner over internal affairs, and he will review both of those documents and then have the ultimate decision. So even if the investigator disagrees with what we say, if the deputy commissioner agrees with us, then he will instruct the investigator to change the finding and match what we said. So it's kind of to be determined what will happen with this one, but this is an example of the level of detailed review that we're able to do. Having access to this body worn camera footage is really critical. It can be very time consuming, sitting there and watching all this footage and really getting a handle on the situation and looking at the policies and the interviews and everything. But when we're able to have a good argument for why we think something should be changed, we're going to present it and be as fair as we can in our analysis. So yeah, we'll find out what happens with that. So next slide, please. And some other updates from our division. Each team member right now is currently working on an explainer, so a document to explain either a police policy or a program to the public. We figured out our topics for these explainers based on trends that we spotted in complaints that we receive at the office or the audits that we do. I've also been encouraging team members to reach out to internal affairs investigators to kind of build relationships a little bit more, discuss complicated cases with them, and also give positive feedback. After a while, I'm start to realize that the only time they see or hear from our team is when we're criticizing their investigation, and we really don't want that to be the case. When we see really good work, we want to acknowledge that and just appreciate them for that. So we're trying to make a concerted effort to build that up and build that out into our work. We had 2 of those situations in May where I had our team members reach out and speak to them. So that was always want to support them where we can. Next up, we will have the results of the 22nd District Body Worn Camera Audit Report and a publication of an updated version of our Body Worn Camera Explainer, where we talk about the technology in use and some of the department's policies. So that was delayed due to a lot of our big events happening last month, but will come out in the next few weeks or so. So you can stay tuned for that. We'll probably discuss it at the next meeting. And also, we had a new team member start this week on Monday joining us. So that's really exciting to have her join us. Her name is Grace, and she's getting all trained up and will be up to speed soon. So that's another great update from the team. But other than that, that's all I have. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer from the commissioners if I can.
Janine, I do not have any questions, but I want to say, as always, thank you for such a thorough report. And I appreciate the explanation that you provided, as well as the example, so that we can visually see what that dialogue typically looks like in that exchange. So again, just thank you very much for the thorough nature of the reports that you provide. All right, doesn't look like anybody else has any questions. All righty. Well, thank you. We appreciate you, Janine, and everyone in your division as well. I don't want to leave anyone out. We do appreciate you all very much. Thank you. Is our executive director still with us? There she is. Yes, indeedy.
So Vice Chair, the meeting is turned back over to you. That's
I
it's for
just
the agency.
Okay, yep. I just wanted to make sure that that was it. I didn't know if you had anything else. Thank you so very much for that. So we have come to the community comment portion of our meeting. We want to thank each of you for joining us on this evening, and at this time, we welcome any public comments and or feedback. If you would like to speak on this evening, please let us know by raising your hand or sending a request in the chat with your full name. You may also submit written public comment through the chat, which will be read aloud. Each commenter will be unmuted and given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address your comments to me, the Vice Chair. Please refrain from offensive language, any threats, or harassment, or you will be removed from the meeting. While we appreciate your input, we may not be able to respond to your questions or comments immediately. Every attempt will be made to follow up by phone or email after the meeting, and you can contact us at CPOC, that is CPOC at phila.gov, or you can call the office at 215-685-0891. And Carrie, do we have any public comment or feedback wishing to be shared?
We do
All
have
right.
one. Sasha Rivera. So I'm going to lower your hand and then allow you to talk.
Hello? I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
Sasha,
was
we can hear
you
you.
with the, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry. This is my first time doing a Zoom, so excuse me. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so my first question, I don't know if I direct this to certain people, but my first question I had was for CPOC's director, Janine. She mentioned in one of her slides that her numbers were according to the 90 days that's in the Directive 1218, also known as Mayoral Executive Order 517. And I wanted to know, why is it that despite the fact that I bring this to you guys' attention, you guys are still using the 90 business days, which is just an impersonal interpretation from Internal Affairs instead of what's on the actual directive? I don't know if you guys wait and then answer. I don't know how this goes.
So I'm going to ask you a clarifying question because it sounds like it's a multifaceted question. So can you repeat your
Sorry.
question so that we understand what exactly you're asking us, please?
Okay, I want to know, how is it that CPOC does auditing specifically according to Directive 1218, which is equally Mayoral Executive Order 517, according to 90 business days and not 90 days, which is what's told in that directive?
So yeah, and we've spoken about this before on the phone, Mr. Barron, and I've spoken to a few people on our staff, and I've spoken to our attorney, Catherine Twig, as well. So the Executive Order 517 states, as you said, investigations should be completed within 90 days. And if they are not completed within 90 days, that the investigator should be reaching out to the complainant and notifying them that the investigation is going to take longer than that. So it's meant to be a guideline for timeliness for investigations, but it's not an investigation must be completed within 90 days or else. It is meant to be a guiding timeline for an investigation to help put some pressure on them to be timely with their investigations, but it's not a hard and fast, everything must be done within that timeline. So it is something they aim for in their investigations, but is not always possible for a variety of reasons that I feel like we've discussed on the phone as well. So the 90 business days is how Internal Affairs is interpreting that and using that, as they do not work 90 straight days. They work 90 business days as a working schedule. And so they interpret that as 90 business days for the investigation. And so since that is how they are counting their investigative days on their investigations, that's the same metric that we are using.
Okay, so in other words, you guys just openly violate a mayoral executive order to honor IA's interpretation of that mayoral executive order. Is that correct? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I was unmuting myself. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, Catherine. I don't know if you have any other guidance for how to speak to this, or Tanya.
Well, Ms. Rivera, let me say that first of all, because CPOC does not do the investigations, we're not violating anything. We are reviewing what their investigation entails. So we are not violating anything. We are not under the same 90-day rules. That's a PPD rule. I think the question, to be honest with you, is probably more aptly put to the police department in terms of their interpretation. They also have counsel. They are represented by the law department. And so I think the appropriate question would be for this to go to the police department and to have the police department explain to you and the other community members of the city of Philadelphia why they have chosen to do 90 business days instead of 90 days. So what we do is review their investigations. And what Ms. Zajac is saying is that it's because that's what they've chosen to do. That's what we honor, but what we're also looking for is the allegations and et cetera. So this is not anything that CPOC is violating. We are still thoroughly looking at whether the allegations, in the example that she just gave, we're clearly looking to see had they missed something challenging, pushing back when it makes sense. But the 90-day rule is not something that CPOC sets. And so the question I think would be more appropriately put towards the police department and also the law department for the city of Philadelphia in terms of their advisement of their client, in terms of why they have chosen to say 90 business days instead of 90 days.
Ms. McClary, I'm sorry if I'm addressing you improperly. I think we got a little sidetracked. The initial question was about how are they accurately auditing if they're not going they're claiming it's guidelines, but when I stated violating an EO is because those quote unquote PPD guidelines, also known as directives, this specific one is directly linked to a mayoral executive order. It's one and the same. So I get what Miss, and I'm just going to say Janine because I tried to pronounce the last name. I apologize. I get what Miss Janine is trying to say, but what I'm saying is she's giving you guys the analytics or the breakdown or whatever it is to state that I'm getting sidetracked, to state that these are the numbers according to the 90 business days, which essentially is CPOC and Internal Affairs violating a mayoral executive order, especially when it was brought to their attention. And instead of saying, oh, we're going to look into this, or you're right, we should do audits according to PPD directives, especially when they're linked to executive orders, they're just saying, no, we're just going to do it according to PPD's interpretation, which is, at the end of the day, an inaccurate audit when it comes to specifically the turnaround timeframes directives, also known as the mayoral executive orders. So I'm not trying to say CPOC is violating anything. I understand that they're doing the auditing, but I'm saying that they're doing the auditings wrong because they're going according to Mrs. Janine's quote unquote guidelines, also known as directives, also known as a mayoral executive order, if that makes sense. I hope I clarified that.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, I follow fully what you were saying. And what I'm saying is that what I would like to see you do is talk to the law department. If we
I
get
did. I
something, if
talked to
we get
everyone.
something back from the law department that says that they should be doing this in 90 business days, then Ms. Zajac, when they don't do that without a good explanation, can add that to her list of recommendations, right? She can recommend that these things need to be completed within the 90 days. What I'm saying is that outside of that, right now, everything that they look at in the case is thoroughly vetted and looked at. And so whether or not they sent it to her on the 91st day or the 100th day does not impact her staff's ability to look at the actions of the police officer or the officers that were involved. And so we welcome any feedback. We welcome if you want to have the law department clarify that particular issue, and then that perhaps would be something that we would add. But in terms of what Ms. Zajac's team does, it's what she says, because there are times where PPD, for example, say an officer was out on leave and couldn't be interviewed, so it couldn't happen in 90 days. What she gets is the completed investigation. And so she looks at the completed investigation to see whether it was thorough, whether it was accurate, whether it was complete. And so whether she got that on day 90 or day 100, it does not impact her staff's ability to look at that. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't want the community to feel that somehow CPOC, because we may have gotten something after 90 days, is not thoroughly looking at what the actions are and the allegations are. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't want that perception. So whatever day she gets it, she is looking at what, like I said, whether it was complete, thorough, and accurate. And if there is something that comes down that says that this must be done within 90 business days, if there's something that comes out in that way, then she could potentially add that to the list of things that she makes recommendations about when she gets them past those days without the explanation.
I appreciate that, Ms. McCleary. Again, I think we're all missing each other. For starters, I did speak to the counsel from CPOC, who unfortunately, I don't know, I've been waiting a response about the 90 business days. I'm not talking about whether or not CPOC gets the complaints for their review within 90 days at all. I'm not talking about that because I don't know when they receive them. From my understanding, there's still complaints open from 2 to 5 years ago. What I'm saying is that this is my first time in this type of call, and I see that she herself stated that they did audits according to 90 business days, which is wrong. I've been down every avenue, as Miss Janine has stated. I've spoke to counsel, and as of right now, I was told by Lieutenant Jacobs from the Act 222 Research and Planning Department that not Miss Janine specifically, but counsel should have taken what I told them and ran it up the chain to get the directives updated to state 90 days because it doesn't, to state 90 business days because it doesn't state 90 business days. That's the fight I'm trying to fight. I'm not saying the CPOC is not doing their job accordingly. I'm saying that they're doing their audits for the time frame specifically wrong. And it's not that the language is not in there, that they can't do it. Janine very well, and everyone in her staff very well knows that the language specifies 90 days, not 90 business days, and that if that time frame was superseded, the complainant and the alleged officers involved should have been informed. So all I'm saying is just according to the audits, that the audit is being done wrong. So how are the constituents of Philadelphia supposed to be comfortable knowing that other aspects or other parts of the audits are being done accurately if this one specifically is being done wrong, and I bring it to everyone's attention?
So, Ms. Rivera, we want to first and foremost thank you for your comment on tonight. We have exceeded exceptionally our 3-minute window. However, if you still need to contact the office, you can feel free to do that. As you have mentioned, you have spoken with both our general counsel as well as Ms. Zajac. I do want to clarify for the purposes of the public who are watching us tonight what our executive director has stated, and I want to also clarify the work that Janine Zajac and her department are doing. The Division of Auditing for CPOC is not operating outside of any legal grounds in their investigations. We want to be very clear. When they are auditing, they are operating according to CPOC's rules and regulations. If there is discrepancy with the 90-day interpretation, that should be first taken up, as mentioned, with the law department based on the issues raised with the directive and the interpretation through the Philadelphia Police Department. I want the public to understand what CPOC's position is tonight, that we are not discrediting Ms. Rivera's concerns, but we are encouraging her to address them with the proper agency so that she may get the clarity that she needs, as well as the residents and citizens of the city of Philadelphia. Again, Ms. Rivera, we thank you very much for your comment on tonight, and we encourage you to reach out to the office if you have any further questions or concerns. Carrie, do we have anyone else waiting for public comment or feedback in the chat tonight?
No, we do not.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate your help. Commissioner Bennett, we see you. Commissioner Bennett has joined us on this evening. Would you like to share, Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You guys have been here longer than I have. But I do have a question that falls on the merit of the last question, right? And I think that will fall for Janine. Um, if what happens if investigations doesn't satisfy this 90-day window?
So, what is supposed to happen is that the investigator is supposed to notify all parties involved in the case that the case isn't going to meet the 90 business day guideline, and say there's going to be a delay, just so that people are apprised of the status of the case and are made aware that it may not be resolved immediately. And then internal affairs, from my understanding, keeps track of all the cases that are open and that are lengthy in their investigative timeline, and follow up on how with the investigators about anticipated closing dates or what's going on with those cases, kind of like a ComStat for their investigation. So that's really it. I think the executive order being referenced is about the process of investigations and discipline, and is meant to give some information about how the process goes. But as far as what happens if it doesn't hit that guideline, it's just kind of monitored by the department for completion at that point.
Is there any penalty or anything that would taint the I want to say due process of the officer or the investigation if it doesn't satisfy that 90-day window? Is there anything in the law that says it's consequence, or if it would taint the investigation in any way?
No, there's no penalty because investigations can be unpredictable as far as when they can be completed, based on maybe they need a specific document that they can't get their hands on, or they're waiting for medical records, or they can't interview somebody. Like, there's a lot of reasons why an investigation may take a long time. Of course, it's best if they don't take a long time, but sometimes you really can't avoid it. So no, there's no penalty. It's just kind of they get investigated, and it kind of takes as long as it takes. But the guideline is there to sort of, put some pressure to keep it moving along if possible.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett, for your question. Do we have any further questions from any commissioners this evening? All right. Well, all hearts and minds being clear. Thank you, Chair Bennett, again. And I just want to say to our commissioners and to our staff, thank you all for a productive meeting this evening. It has been a pleasure serving as your facilitator, and I will now ask, do we have any motions to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. This is Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. I never understand why the pause between the question and the motion is always so long at the end. I do not get it. I don't get it. I think we all just love being here. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gonzalez, for the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do we have a second to that motion?
And it seconds that motion.
That was quick. Thank you, Chair Bennett. The motion has been moved and properly second to adjourn tonight's meeting. We thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We thank you to our commissioners, and we thank you to our staff and to the public. And we look forward to meeting with you all again. Our next public meeting will be Thursday, July 9th, 2026. Have a good night, everyone.